Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for the USC Comedy Festival, Volume 5. I'm Alex Zago, Director of Programming at the USC School of Cinematic Arts. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our dedicated USC Comedy faculty and staff, as well as USC Visions and Voices, the Arts and Humanities Initiative, that has generously sponsored all 5 editions of the festival. Please visit the festival website to learn about our other upcoming events this weekend, including panels on Big Mouth and What We Do in the Shadows later today, and a full day of Hulu original comedy tomorrow, featuring panels with A.D. Bryant, Rami Youssef, Patton Oswalt, Keith Knight, and many others. If you'd like to ask a question today, please type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can. We also have a comedy festival Discord server running this weekend, which you can join at any time, and we'll post the link to that in the chat. Today's panel discussion, Women Creating Comedy, featuring Chelsea DEVANTEZ, ZIWE FUMUDOH, London Hughes, Jaina Schmeeding, and Rachel SENNOTT, will be moderated by SCA alumna Shannon Hardy from the Women of Cinematic Arts. Enjoy the show, and please now welcome David Isaacs, Chair of the John Wells Division of Writing for Screen and Television and co-chair of USC Comedy.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. I'm still David Isaacs, and I want to welcome you to the 5th edition of our festival and our first fully online festival, of course, but that has given us the rare opportunity to extend our reach and add some events and guests that would be hard to bring to you under normal circumstances. I want to thank, of course, our festival producer, Alex Zago, Brian DeAngelis, who is coordinating and running our Discord server, where you can discuss this upcoming event and the festival with fellow SCA students, alums, and friends. And the link will be in the chat, link to Discord. And a special thanks and greeting, as always, to our great supporter of USC Comedy, the Dean of Cinematic Arts, Elizabeth Daly. Just to say a few words about our program, if you are interested in writing, directing, or producing comedic content, or just a fan or interested in the form, USC Comedy offers an array of curriculum designed to help you discover your voice, develop it, enhance it. So please check us out and our curriculum out and our activities out on the USC Comedy website. It's my real pleasure to introduce our panel this afternoon, Women Creating Comedy, event that has been a staple of our previous festivals. And as Barnett mentioned at the end of the last program with Bill Hader, almost always the Women Creating Comedy panel is the most funny and thought-provoking. And the 5 young women you're about to meet are writers, stand-up comedians, actors, directors, and podcasters in different combination, but all taking full advantage of new media to create their own and proliferate their own comic brands. So I want to introduce you first. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, who will introduce these women to you. Shannon Hardy is an award-winning writer, director, and stand-up comedian in her own right. All of that talent first appearing as a graduate of the USC School of Cinematic Arts, and she is a board member of Women of Cinematic Arts. Shannon?
Thank you so much, David. It's such an honor to be here and to get to talk to all of the incredible talent in this Zoom chat room. But yes, I am a member of the Women of Cinematic Arts organization, which is a collective of female and gender non-conforming graduates of USC's School of Cinematic Arts. Through professional and social programming, we offer opportunities to support each other from graduation to retirement and dismantle inequality in the entertainment industry as best as we can. So I'd like to invite you to join your local chapter if you are an alumni, or ask us about starting your own. It should appear in the chat soon, a link for you guys to learn more about WCA. And without further ado, I am going to introduce our incredible panelists. starting with the very funny Chelsea Devontes. Chelsea is a writer, comedian, podcaster, and filmmaker who is currently the head writer on Jon Stewart's new Apple series. Devontes' writing credits include the upcoming Peacock TV series, Girls 5 Eva, as well as Bless This Mess, Abby's, The Opposition with Jordan Klepper, and this is just to name a few. She recently wrote, directed, and starred in the 2020 South by Southwest film Basic and hosts a top-performing podcast, Celebrity Book Club with Chelsea Devontes. Next up, the amazing ZIWE FUMUDOH. ZIWE is a comedian, writer, pop singer, icon, podcaster, actress, everything, who has taken the internet by storm with her hilarious commentary on race and politics in America. Her Instagram Live and YouTube talk series, Baited, comes to a new platform, Showtime, on Sunday, May 9th. So please mark your calendars because ZIWE will be serving in all of the ways as star, executive producer, and showrunner of the series. Previously a story editor on Apple TV Plus's Dickinson, her writing credits also include Showtime's Desus and Mero, Comedy Central's The Colbert Report, The Onion, and BET's The Rundown with Robin Thede. Moving right along to the amazing London Hughes. London is a stand-up comedian, writer, actor, host, and the first British Black woman to be nominated for the Edinburgh Comedy Best Show Award for her 2019 show To Catch a Dick, which was executive produced by the Kevin Hart. She was recently nominated for Breakthrough Artist of the Year at the prestigious South Bank Sky Arts Awards and is set to star in the Universal production Hot Mess. London also currently hosts the Netflix After Party, a first of its kind weekly comedy after show alongside Fortune Feimster and David Spade. Moving right along to Jaina Schmeeding. Schmeeding is an actor, writer, comedian, and a longtime educator and advocate, raising awareness around Native issues and bringing Native stories to mainstream audiences. She will next star as the female lead opposite Ed Helms on Mike Schur's new comedy series, Rutherford Falls. She also serves as a staff writer in the series, which will launch on Peacock in 2021. She has performed, directed, improv, sketch, solo comedy for over a decade in New York and Los Angeles, and hosted the acclaimed Woman of Size podcast from 2017 to 2019, where she and her guests discuss the way that we think and talk about our bodies. Last but certainly not least is the queen of Twitter, Rachel Sennott. Rachel Sennott is a comedian, actress, writer who recently starred in and co-produced the hysterical, anxiety-inducing indie darling Shiva Baby by director Emma Seligman. The Sennott and Seligman duo will reunite for their second feature together, Bottoms, which Sennott will both co-write and star in. And currently she's co-starring opposite Kyra Sedgwick in the ABC comedy series, Call Your Mother. Okay, so jumping right into a group question. So while I was preparing my questions, I figure I'm talking to a Zoom full of women whose entire jobs and careers have been about addressing the elephant in the room. So it felt appropriate to open up with a question that tries to address the most obvious elephant in the room, which is we are all trying to make people laugh during a health crisis, a racial crisis, and a crumbling economy. Some very dark times. What's that like?
Oh God.
Go ahead. You won.
I will say there's that old adage of like comedy is pain, and while everyone's comedy is different, I know my comedy definitely comes from pain, and so pain and darkness has never stopped or influenced comedy, because that's why I am a comedian, most likely. Like it wasn't for just the fun props. It was definitely like, this is painful. How do you make jokes about it? And so I would say the tough thing is not creating comedy. It is keeping your mental health.
Hey, there we go.
People.
Yes. 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 Basically what Chelsea said, but also I genuinely think it's the best time to do comedy right now. We need to laugh. We're going through it. And I just feel like we are now like needed now more than any other time in history. Like funny women, like we are like the suffragette movement right now. Like we're going to change everything, because right now the world has gone to shit. So they need us, and we need this. It's a release for me. Comedy has got me through this pandemic and this race war and moving to a brand new country in the middle of it. So yeah. I needed it.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. I will be jumping along to individual questions and group questions, but if you have anything to say ever, please interrupt. I think that's a good way to go about this. So, ZIWE, I think that the show Baited came at a time when our country really needed someone like you who wasn't afraid to ask people uncomfortable questions about race and in a way that is so funny and cringe. What do you hope that people are taking away from your conversations?
I hope that people take away from my conversations that, you know, talking about race and politics is very uncomfortable, but ultimately it's kind of at the crux of existence in American society. And there are ways to do this and have fun and be silly, and it's okay to embarrass yourself ultimately. But really, my comedy is mostly just about like fun and laughing. And all the like social commentary is an added bonus, but ultimately everything has to be funny first.
Yes. Yeah. And I can imagine, you know, your show started on YouTube.
I don't like using those words, and I'm sorry that I used those words. I was angry and we didn't ever really have any closure. No, she wants to hold you accountable.
Oh, sorry.
Not-
Real Housewives was playing on my computer. And I was like,
Oh my God!
Oh my God.
Oh my God!
I was like,
I was like, who's chatting shit? Oh my! Oh my God, that was so hilarious.
No, that scared the crap out of me because I was like, why is Yolanda Foster in my house?
She wants to hold you accountable
Yeah,
for
like,
those
who's trying
words.
to hold who accountable? We've just started this. No
And-
one said anything problematic yet. I couldn't.
Guys, honestly, and that was a great season reunion episode 2, season 6, when they after they go to Dubai, Beverly Hills. It was fantastic. I'm having a great time.
Right. What?
Sorry,
My heart
what was
is
your
so down
question?
now. Woo.
well, on that note, so
What was your question?
Baited started on Instagram Live and YouTube, and now it's making its way over to Showtime. Can you talk about how your creative process has changed with the platform that the show is on?
Okay, so there's a motorcycle gang outside of my house, and that's real. How has my process changed with my process with Showtime? I mean, it's more collaborative. When I was first making my Instagram live show, I was producing it by myself in my bedroom. And so I was DMing at people to book talent, and now I have professionals who DM and produce it and don't have to light it and do makeup and wardrobe myself. So as far as how my process has changed, everything has just been scaled up to feel like it's on a network level.
That's awesome. I think that a lot of the people watching are trying to do things on their own right now. So hearing somebody like you who's taken it from just doing it yourself on Instagram and YouTube, and now it's on Showtime, I think is super inspiring. My last baited question.
Sure.
What is your favorite baited moment?
Every single moment on this show are my precious children, and I couldn't possibly pick one over the other. And I think with Baited, what the fun about it is that there is something different for every taste. So if you really like watching like a Caroline Calloway type meander about James Baldwin, versus if you like watching Alexis Nyers talk about like her experiences with, you know, blackface, or if you like watching Alyssa Milano wax poetic about her friend named Jimmy Jazz. All of these things are really fun and interesting and different. And that's kind of the point of my comedy, is that there is a lane for everyone. With my show, it's a variety show. There's music, there's fake commercials, there are live interviews, there are tape interviews, field pieces. So it's really just a wide net, and you kind of have to pick your poison ultimately.
Okay. And then London, I'd like to move over to you for a quick second, if we could.
Sure.
So in your special, You to Catch a Dick, I'm just going to keep saying the title. And, no, I'm going to scream it. I'm not going to block it out. In your special, To Catch a Dick, your stories highlight the unfair playing field that exists for men and women, especially for Black women in the entertainment industry. What changes do you feel like you would like to see happen in the entertainment industry?
Babes, so much. It's so different because, first of all, I'm coming from Britain. So like people talk about diversity in America in throughout the entertainment industry as being quite bad. Britain is even worse. Like we are so behind. Like I am the first Black British woman to do so many things, and it's ridiculous because comedy has existed for so many years in our country. And you know, people think of great British comedy and they think of white men mainly, and it's not the case. There's so many funny, diverse women with things to say, but we're not getting heard. So for me, To Catch a Dick was basically just like me being a woman and living in my space unapologetically, even with the name To Catch a Dick. Like, I didn't give a shit when I was on that stage, when I wrote that show, because it was 10 years of, I've been doing comedy for 10 years in the UK, and it was 10 years of built up women angst, of Black woman angst. So there's a lot to be done in Britain. I'm new to America, so I can't speak on what needs to be done here, because I've only been here a year. But in terms of personally what I'd want to change, it's all about the people making the decisions. So when the people that make the decisions don't look like me or don't look any different from a white man, then we're going to get the same stuff in comedy. And I just feel like women need to understand their power. Like, women are the ones that buy cinema tickets, right? Movie tickets. Women are the ones that sell out box office things. Women are the ones that schedule date night and book a comedy club. Women are actually the biggest consumers of comedy. And people don't realize that. Live comedy, it's the ladies. So for some reason, we've been told that women aren't funny. I know women that tell me, oh, you're really funny for a woman. Shut up, shut your face. How dare you? You've been brainwashed. And I think it starts with us loving ourselves. It starts with the people that making the decisions, not all looking the same. And it starts with people wanting to try new things. And I feel like we're heading in a great direction. Look at the caliber of legends in front of us right now. So I think the only way is up. My fingers are crossed for a better future for women in comedy, especially Black women. So yeah.
Thank you so much, London. And I'm gonna chaotically jump around if that's okay. To Chelsea. Chelsea, I think that this is a good moment to turn to this question, because in your podcast, Celebrity Book Club with Chelsea Devontes, you have a really great episode where you discuss Dolly Parton's memoir. And part of your discussion of Dolly Parton's memoir goes over this concept of paying your dues, and how this concept of paying our dues can often lead to women, and especially women of color, being taken advantage of in deals in the workplace, etc. Can you talk about how people can be taken advantage of on the path to success and what we can do about it?
Yeah, so if you guys don't know the Dolly Parton story of her and Porter Wagner, the very brief headline is that she was a woman coming up, she had some success, but then Porter Wagner, this country legend, put her on his show under the official title Girl Singer. And there she spent 7 years basically sitting on his lap in photo shoots and doing this show together. And it's really what catapulted her to stardom. But as she grew, he tried to control and own her songs and convince her that she couldn't leave. And she sings the song, I Will Always Love You, to this man to get him to let her leave and go become a star on her own. And she gave him 7 years. When she sings the song, I Will Always Love You, he's like, can I produce that and co-own it? And then I guess you can leave. So owns parts of that song, then lets her go. So whenever I was coming up in comedy and got fucked with, I hope we can swear because it just did, I will more. And when I was coming up in comedy, anytime someone tried to like steal a project of mine or fuck me over, I would think to myself, like Porter Wagner, like you got to get fucked over once in order to be successful. And that's like what would keep me going. So when I was discussing this in Celebrity Book Club, which is something I do on Instagram and in the podcast, a lot of people weigh in. It's like a digital book club. And this woman, Perdita Patrice, who I want to credit for this comment, she's a Black woman who said, paying your dues has often been used as a way to make women and women of color suffer more, in the idea of like, you should be grateful you're getting paid less. You should be grateful you have an opportunity here. You should be grateful for this. And it really made me rethink how we look at paying our dues. And, you know, a part of paying your dues, I do think is necessary in any industry. You have to learn the small things before you get the big things, unless your dad is a Spielberg, you know, then maybe if you have nepotism on your side, maybe you don't have to pay your dues. But how it is then used to discredit you and put you in all these programs to be so grateful and never get what you're worth, I think happens a lot. And on the flip side of it, if I hadn't been fucked with so much coming up in live comedy. By the time I got to Hollywood, I would have not been prepared. So part of me is like, well, thank God that improv team thing was fucked up, because I would not have nearly the thick skin when these like Hollywood money things happen. So it's this balance of like, what is paying your dues and what is people taking advantage of you because you're so grateful to be there.
Thank you so much. I think that that's such an important thing for people to hear, because I think that not only are alumni listening that might, you know, just be recently graduated from college, but there are also young girls who are looking to enter the comedy industry that are watching right now. And I think it's really important to talk about that. Like, you know, promoters are creepy sometimes when you go to book a club, and it's not always fair. And we talk about all the ways that women are passed over in comedy, but it becomes such a different conversation when you're actually going through it. So we need to hear from people like you, from women like Dolly, who have gone through it and come out on the other side of it. So moving right along, you are all such a prolific group of women that I cannot tell you how long it took me to research all of you, because you've all done so much work, and you have all such a large body of work that was, I want to say, also just so much fun to research. But I would love to give you guys all the opportunity to jump in and brag about what is your favorite project that you've worked on, and you know, how have you stumbled your way into what you consider your best work?
Ooh, spicy question. Who's going first?
Well, no, please.
Okay.
I like.
I was gonna say,
No, Rachel, go.
Yeah, Rachel, go.
no,
Oh, Rachel,
Go,
Rachel,
Rachel.
go.
Go, Rachel, go.
Rachel.
Do it.
I
want to hear from Rachel.
Rachel.
that I think my longest piece of work that I feel like the most proudest about, because it feels like it took like literally 6 years, was working with my friend Emma on Shiva Baby. It was a short, and then it was a feature, and it was supposed to be at South by, and then there was COVID, and then it was supposed to be at TIFF, and then it was TIFF online. And it felt like for so long, like no one was going to see the movie. And like, we had put so much, like we made the movie for like $70 and like put so much like energy and time into it. And to finally have the movie come out this past week was such a big moment, because it felt like 6 years of work in 1 week. And so I think I felt really proud of that, because I think no one during the whole time was like, yeah, totally keep going. Like it was literally just us being like, keep going to each other. And so I think that's something that I'm really proud of, because it didn't happen and it took so long. And so when it finally, which I think probably every woman here can speak to, is that it's like, it takes forever. And then when you finally like get above the surface, everyone's like, where did she come from? And you're like, I've been lugging a backpack around for 6 years, but you know, so that's my proudest.
I love that. I feel the same way. And firstly, Rachel's Shiva Baby is absolutely brilliant. Rachel is a phenomenal comedian, so shout out to her. I feel the same way, where it's just like I've been doing iterations of Baited since 2016. The first video I ever shot was the day Hillary lost the election, and then it's reiterated itself as Instagram Live, and then finally as like a Showtime show. So that's and I was doing this in kind of same as Rachel, in a vacuum. No one cared, no one noticed. 3 likes on YouTube, no one saw it, and you're just like investing in yourself at a net loss for years. And so to have the gratification of people seeing the work that you've put like, you know, a decade into, to suddenly be like, wow, this is genius. I love it. This is so fun. It's currently of the moment, is very, very rewarding. So I think as any artist who's watching this, it's like, you really have to create for yourself and create in that vacuum, because you're not going to get the instant gratification of validation. And it has to be sustainable for you, because you can't chase trends. You can't like follow trends. You have to set them yourselves.
100%. I will basically say the same thing these girls just said. Same applied with me. I genuinely was that girl that was like, oh, I'm going to be a massive star. And people were like, okay. And I'd be like, no, honestly, I'm going to be a huge star in America. And they're like, well, you haven't been. And I'm like, I know I haven't been. Don't worry about how I'm going to get there. I'm going to go there. And I believed in myself so much that in 2017, I performed at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival. And like, some people don't know what it is in America, but basically the Edinburgh Comedy Festival is the biggest arts festival in the world. It's stand-up, it's performance art, it's everything. But comedy is like, is where we shine. And like heroes like Monty Python have come from the festival. Like, it's, if you do well at the festival in Britain, you become a British comedy legend pretty much. And it's every day for a month. You do stand up in tiny spaces. They turn the whole town of Edinburgh into a stage. You can see stand up on the street. You can see naked stand up, lesbian stand up, all this, like, it's all different types, and comedy's on every second of every day. And I had a show in 2017 and I called it London Hugh's Superstar. It's just nobody's realized it, right? And it cost me 10,000 English pounds, which is like $12,000 to put on this show. And it was just a one-woman show with me, and there was props, and I was talking about my journey as a comic in the UK and just trying to break it out, and the fact that there are no Black female household names in comedy. Like in America, you have people like Whoopi Goldberg. I don't have a British version of Whoopi Goldberg to look up to. All my heroes, from whether it's even the men, like every Black American comic that's a legend is a legend in all over the world, but they're from America. And as a British person, I'm like, where are the British Black comic legends? I want to be one. What do I do? So this was that show. And the show ended in like, it was kind of like, it had a voiceover, a narrative that narrated my journey. And at the end, it was like, will London Hughes get an agent in America? Like that's one of my goals. It was like, will London Hughes get an agent? And I stood there and I was like, one day. And it was like, will London Hughes get a Netflix special? And I was like, maybe. And like at that time, I'd never been to LA, and this was only 2017. And that show did terribly. I spent 10 grand on it. A total of 12 people saw it. It got, the most it got was like 4 stars. It wasn't even a thing. Like people was like, London Hughes had a show. It was not a thing. And I could have let that defeat me, you know, because it was horrible. But I remember thinking, I'm gonna win this. So after I wrote that show and it flopped ass, I went back and I went, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna give myself a year to figure out what the fuck I wanna do and just do a show for me. And that was To Catch a Dick. So I wrote To Catch a Dick in literally 2 weeks. And like when I first wrote it, it was 2 hours long because I had so much dick catching material. And I was like, I need to get it down to an hour. And I did it at the festival. I didn't give a shit about promotion. I didn't spend 10 grand on it. I just got myself a microphone, no props, no voiceover, me and jokes. And that show sold out. I became the first British Black person to be nominated for an award. I didn't win, they gave it to a white guy. It doesn't matter, I got nominated. And then that show, I just thought was like a win. It wasn't something to get to America. It was just something I was doing because I could. That show did so well there that it got the attention of everyone over here. Kevin Hart flew me over here, was like, I wanted to produce it. Netflix and HBO and everybody's fighting over it. And I'm like, this is what happens when you just do something for you, you know? When you just go, I'm gonna do what I wanna do and I'm just gonna get my shit out there. And now I've got movies based on it. I got a book deal. I got dick. Listen, being single and catching dick has changed my life. And now I'm living in America and doing everything I wanted to do in the first show, Superstar, just nobody's realized it. I guess they're realizing it now. So yes, I genuinely believe that that in this industry, as a woman, you kind of got to back yourself, and people will look at you stupid. They will think you're crazy. Then they'll have the last laugh and be the one going, I was there when she did her first show and blah, blah, blah to 7 people, you know? So that's my story. It's pretty much the same as the other girls, but it's a story of triumph. And
it sounds like most female comedians, that is their story of just like, this product until somebody catches on. Chelsea,
right. It's like you've got to believe in your source first. If you don't believe in it, no one else will. And I feel like female comics have to believe in it because no one else does. So to be a female comic, to even want to get on the stage and tell jokes with a vagina, you need a certain level of confidence that that society has kind of tried to rip from womankind throughout history. And so the fact that we're even on stage doing what we're doing, we're fucking brave. So yeah, we just got to have that inner confidence. And sounds cliche, but never give up.
Chelsea, Jana, do you guys, do you feel like you've had similar experiences or any projects that, you know, you're really proud of?
I'm pretty proud of most of my projects. I've been doing comedy for, I mean, since college essentially, and it's been like a creative practice that I've held on to wherever I live, and you know, I find collaborators, and I've gone through different eras of comedy. Like I went through like a Tim and Eric phase where it's like really gross, weird sketch comedy. I went through like a phase of like, I want to direct sketch comedy, or I want to like, you know, or I want to produce a podcast, or, you know, I just like always want to have my fingers in like 4 different projects at various, you know, points in the process. And I call to it just, I feel like very called to like the creative process in general. And like comedy just happens to be one of those things that it sort of fuels me. But I never really, it's sort of like whatever's happening at the time is my favorite project because I don't tend to get involved with projects that I'm not enjoying. I do it for the joy. At the core of it, it has always been sort of like a hobby, and something that brings joy into my life. And so I've really done my best to always be involved in projects that I am either producing myself or that come from some kind of inner drive or passion, or just feel like a fun project to be involved in. And I think that has gotten me to the point where I am now, where I'm not really jaded. You know, I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm not like bitter about being excluded from the industry. Like I kept going and doing my own little indie shits here and there, and you know, 2 like 3 likes on YouTube, or like weird web series with my friends, and I don't give a shit. Like I'm having a good time. And I'm now, you know, working in the industry and getting a paycheck from NBC Universal, and like I'm having a great time. At the end of the day, I'm actually really having fun, and I feel like I've positioned myself in a way that is like, okay, I don't have to like, I feel like if I were in this industry like 20 years ago, like knowing who I am, if I were any younger than I am now, like I maybe wouldn't have fared as well. But because I put myself through so many different like creative experiences, I like know my voice, I know what I want, and I know how to execute it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I want to say I've done 1,000 things I didn't want to do. And so if you can pick a path, pick JANA. I was on a cruise ship for 4 months performing comedy, and I just, you know, one of a million things that you're like, but that does go back to that thing of like, as a woman, just being so grateful and saying yes to everything, and you don't have to. So that's very good advice. And I also want to emphasize what London said. I made 6 like web series TV sizzles as a director, actor, writer, always wanting to sell them. And I still did, right? And I would make them and go through a pitch process, and they go nowhere. And then finally I was just like, fuck all of you. I haven't done something for myself in a really long time, and I'm just gonna make this short film for me. And it ended up getting into South by Southwest, and it is nothing about it is a typical South by Southwest film. And I even, it was just so for me that I had applied to like the community colleges of festivals, and I applied to South by Southwest, and I went to all of them. And later filmmakers were like, you're not supposed to do that. You're like degrading the work of your film. You only go to the nice ones. And I was like, I don't care. I didn't make this for anyone but me. And it really pays off when you only make work for you. And I have found that over and over again. And it's really frustrating because I'm a tryhard, I'm a type A, and I want to sell shit. And it just has never worked that way. And so it's the same way with Celebrity Book Club. It was something I was doing in pandemic, and that has become one of the best parts of my life. And it was never anything I intended to do. It was because I truly enjoyed it. And it's a shitty lesson for anyone who's like, I want to just do something, but you really just do have to follow your heart.
Absolutely. And I think that right now too, you know, what we're seeing happening is there's like this comedy community that is recognizing that female comics, we have to lift up our peers because it is so hard to get our voices out there in the first place. And so I think an important question to ask is, are there any female comedians that you'd like to promote or admire right now?
All my friends. Ashley Nicole Black, Akilah Green, Taylor Cox, Bridget Munoz-Leibowitz, every woman on this chat. There's so much. I really do think, you know, when I was starting out, there was still only one woman allowed on the improv team. And then it was like 2. And now when I go and teach, sometimes there's no men on improv teams. And we really are in like a turning point of like, I booked a stand-up show in LA for 2 years. And every week my friends and I would have to be like, there's no men on the lineup. We got to think of a man we know. So like, and that comes from just like, there's just so many great women working right now and creating work.
Awesome. So Rachel, I'm going to talk about a tweet that you tweeted this week that I love, if you don't mind. So you tweeted something that I felt like I really needed to hear, which was, the best thing about being a girl is that if 2 good things happen to you that you've been working towards for 6 years, you can immediately feel people starting to hate you.
Was that Rachel? Rachel, did you tweet that?
Yes, I did.
I didn't know. Oops. Listen, I wanted to put it on a mug. I wanted to frame it and put it in my bathroom. Jesus Christ, what a fucking tweet.
Wait, can you read it again?
Oh my God. Sorry, I interrupted. I had no idea you tweeted that. Jesus Christ. Sorry.
You should sell merch with this tweet on it, I think. I think it would do very well. The best thing about being a girl is that if 2 good things happen to you that you've been working towards for 6 years, you can immediately feel people starting to hate you. So my question is, can we talk about toxic competitiveness in women and how we combat it?
Well, I would say it's not just women. Actually, the men are coming after me just as hard. I receiving negativity. And I also want to say, like, obviously there's so many like positive support, you know. I just think that, like I was saying before, basically Emma and I worked so hard on the feature, and this other feature is a script, The Bottoms, that we've been writing since we finished the short. So we also have been working on that for years and years and years. And we went through, we pitched it to so many production companies, so many studios, like, no, for years. And so, of course, it's like when it rains, it pours, it all happens at once. But like what ZIWE was saying, like I remember seeing the YouTube version of her show and then the live of Baited. And it's like, it takes so much work. Like, I feel like it literally takes like work and timing and like all of these different things. And then when it finally happens, I feel like people are so like, you get praise. And then instantly I just started seeing people on the internet being like, who is this bitch? Like, why is she doing, like, why is everything happening at once? Like, I want to sell a movie, blah, blah, blah. And she's not a good actress. She's ugly. A couple of things that I read.
How dare they?
I'm working on a skill, which is not reading stuff about myself. I need to learn, but
hard.
It's so hard because if it's there, it's like, well, obviously I should read it, and then I should reach out to this person, and then I should explain to them.
Yes, that bit, 100%.
Of course, we would connect. Sometimes I'm literally like, if we just hung out for 6 hours.
That's true, though. That's true.
Yeah.
But I think that people are so quick to, people just hate. I think people hate women, and there's only so much. It's like they love to like build up a woman and like you know what I mean, like, and then flip. And so I think it's just, I noticed that where it's like, oh, we love her, and then you reach like mainstream success, which I don't even feel like I'm there yet, but you reach a certain level of something where people are like, actually she's overrated, actually she's this. And I think it's just like, I think I just realized that it's like, you can't control it, and you're never going to be able to make everybody happy,
Yes.
My personality is that like I said, I want to get dinner with each individual who said that I was ugly online. But it's like, you can't do that, and you just have to do your own thing.
It's
Oh.
so annoying that only
100%.
happens with women though. Like, I just feel like there's so many underrated mediocre men just living their best lives unscathed. And like one girl pops off and it's like, do you know how hard it is for a woman to pop off in the first place, let alone in comedy? And you're like hating. And it's just like, babes, please come on. And with the I had to check someone. They were like, who is London Hughes? I was like, type my name into Netflix. It will tell you, honey.
Wow. Okay. Drag.
Yeah.
It will tell you. Like, I'm just like, anytime I see a girl that's popped off, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in awe of her. Like, she's inspirational to me. Like, how does she do it? I would study my favorite females and like read the books they read and do the courses they did, and just to see if I could get a little bit of their success. I had a plan where Mindy Kaling, I love that Mindy Kaling is the closest thing I had in Britain to like a black female, like who had their own TV show at the time. But when Mindy Kaling did the Mindy Project and like it aired in the UK, I was like, there's a brown woman with a sitcom where she gets to date white guys just willy-nilly. And I was like, that's like my life. Like, I'd want a show like that. Like, if I had my own sitcom, I'd be dating Seth Rogen and shit. So I was like, I want to see how she did this. So like, I literally found out everything she did. I had Mindy as my screensaver wallpaper on my phone as inspiration. And I was like, okay, by this age, she did this. By this age, she did that. And it just motivated me to get to where I am. And now baby girl is a big fan of mine. So this is the thing. I don't understand why people hate on women when we pop. It's so much harder for us. You should be so fucking proud of us that we achieve these goals.
I think it's also like a product of the system. They only let one of us at a time in. So then everyone, if they let 20 women pop off at the same time, they'd have to spread their hate around.
Right.
Or women would see like, oh, I can pick who's representing me. But instead it's like, well, it's just this one person. So now anything they do wrong is representing me. And now and it's a cause of like, they don't let an ensemble girls show happen, but once a decade.
There we go.
And they need 10 of them at the same time, or else like that hate will continue.
Oh, it's disgusting. I'm sorry you went through that, Rachel. You're a fucking queen.
We'll fight all of them, Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel. Yeah, Rachel. I will look at them like this.
Yeah.
They'll be scared.
Fuck the haters.
Very supportive. Thank you.
They're probably obsessed as well. They're just jealous. It's just like, you're too fabulous. Fuck them.
So I'm gonna transition real quick. So Jaina, you started as an educator. Can you talk about transitioning, talking about, you know, Native issues and bringing them to mainstream audiences, and going from an educator to a comedic voice, and how both of those things informed each other? Because I know that there are definitely educators watching this right now who are probably trying to do many of the things that you've already accomplished.
Yeah. I was a public school teacher in the Bronx for 10 years. But I was doing comedy at the same time. You know, my grind was like, go teach, wake up at 6, get to work by 7, teach until 3, take the train down to Midtown by 4, rehearsal and or coach and or direct and or perform. You know, it got to be a real grind that it was not sustainable. So after 10 years of doing that, I made the decision to move to Los Angeles and try to get staffed. I wanted to essentially the balance in terms of where my care was going and where my interest was going was really starting to tip, and tipping toward comedy. I was wanting to spend more time and energy in that world than I was in education. And I knew that if I stayed in teaching, in education, I wouldn't be able to transition fully because first of all, wage gap. I mean, it's impossible to be a woman not getting a paycheck, trying to live in either New York or Los Angeles. So just realistically, I was like, I can't be unemployed for an extended amount of time. Like, I can save, but like that's only going to sustain me for, you know, only so long. And And, you know, moving into an industry like this is really unpredictable. And as a Native woman who's telling Native stories that we frankly have not ever seen on TV, it made it nearly impossible. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I need to do to make this happen. And what it required of me is just a lot of planning. I really had to like be a big girl and like map out my financial plan, figure out my moving plan, move to Los Angeles, try to get a job in the meantime. So I worked at like an education nonprofit here in Los Angeles, where I was working with different schools in LAUSD, and, you know, creating my podcast at the same time, and just doing, you know, multiple things at once, putting on a live show here in LA, and learning teaching myself essentially how to write pilots. That was in 2016 when I moved to LA, and it was very hard. I was unemployed for a year. I decided to leave my nonprofit. And so for a year I was unemployed and I was getting broker and broker. And I gave myself a deadline. I was like, I cannot live like this for very much longer. I legitimately, at the point in which where I got staffed on Rutherford Falls, I was about 3 months away from literally moving back in with my parents in Oregon and being like, I'll try something else. I'll be fine. I was selling beadwork. Like I was doing all the things that a woman does to stay alive and to keep the hustle alive for as long as I could. And I mean, thank God it hit when it hit, because the transition was no joke. It's not, I think we don't talk about taking that risk very often, because for most women, particularly women of color, it's not possible. And in terms of the Native community, so many Native folks don't live in Los Angeles or New York. So we're dealing with an issue where I had access to the industry. I had access geographically. And that was already a privilege that I had going into this. So I had access to taking comedy classes. I had access to a lot of stages and opportunities to perform. And I don't see that as the case more widely for the Native community. A lot of folks live in rural Arizona, the Midwest, you know, the deep Northeast. Like it's an issue that I think in order to like be a thriving Native community in Hollywood, we're gonna have to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the transition itself was challenging, but it's possible with a lot of planning.
Yeah, I think that's an issue that many people don't consider when they think about, you know, this type of art form, is that it's one of the most expensive art forms. So when you look at our country and how certain groups of people don't have access to the same monetary systems and all of the avenues that, you know, allow people to live and thrive in Los Angeles or New York, it's just not an equal playing field. It really just isn't. And especially for somebody who's like an educator, you know, I know also assistants who are like working so hard and not getting a living wage, right? And then they're also after work, they're going to go do an open mic or they're going to go do a writers group. So I think that across the board, what we're seeing is that women, people of color, people who aren't being paid living wages are having to go so much farther to make it in this industry. And so that was just something that I wanted to touch upon. And you ladies, no matter what question that I've asked you, have, you know, really been able to discuss such inspiring ways to overcome really hard obstacles. So I want to thank you for that. I know that I wanted to just mark that we only have around, I want to say like 20 minutes left. So I'm not going to be able to get to all of my questions that I had for you guys, but I think that the next one that I would like to go into is a group question. So here we are. So female mentors. Female mentors can be really hard to find, but we need them to answer our dumb questions and to show us the way when we're just starting out, or no matter how far along we are in our career. what are some of the best examples you've seen of women lifting each other up in this industry?
I have a quick thing on mentors. I think we think like we need mentors and you're always looking up to someone's career, but the biggest advice I would give is that like, don't look up, like look sideways. Look to the people like you're in classes with and doing shows with, and they're also the younger feminists who may be figuring shit out better than I can tell you, you know, like maybe I'll be giving you some dusty ass advice, whereas like you know, and the people who've helped me negotiate better salaries and better careers are my friends, and we all sort of linked arms and came up together. So I think more important than a mentor is your community and the friends you make doing the work.
Exactly. Boats rise with the tide. Stick together and you guys will succeed. But honestly, it feels so easy to say, make friends with your classmates, make friends with your peers, make friends with the people you see doing sets at the same time as you. But that is crucial to success and longevity.
Yeah, the only reason that I ever got anywhere in this industry, and as a comedian, is because of other women, primarily women of color, who have lifted me up. And I vow to do the same in my career. So I think it's super important as a comedian to have a community, whatever that looks like to you, to have a community of other comedians and non-comedians to like continue to motivate you.
Also, I'm sorry.
Go on, babes.
I was gonna say, just to know, it also doesn't have to be like super seedy, like I'm texting you just to network with you because I think one day you will be special. It's just like find the people whose art that you really connect with, and that is just a natural starting playing field for how you guys can become friends in the future. But it shouldn't feel like angling, constantly operating, as you know, Bethany Frankel would say.
I just wanted to just say I had example of like some sweet ass mentorship from a badass bitch. Her name is Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's a show called Fleabag. She basically she's probably one of the reasons I'm here. I was in Fleabag. I'm just a guest star. Series 1, episode 3. Check it out. And at the wrap party of Fleabag, I was like drunk, living my best life, doing the most, and I was like singing, dancing, being funny. And she was like, you should really do a one-woman show. Like you should go to the Edinburgh Comedy Festival, because Fleabag started off as a one-woman show at the festival. So she was like, you should go there and do it. And until she said it, I didn't really think that it was for me, because it's a very Caucasian, middle-aged, white male festival. And she was, as this woman, this white woman with privilege, is looking at me, someone who was in her show, and being like, you should go for it. And then when I did, and I got the success with To Catch a Dick, I had to obviously apply for a visa, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge signed my visa, which is how I got to work in America. And I genuinely think that even Donald Trump could not say no to that visa at the time, because baby girl Waller-Bridge was 20 million a year bridge when she signed it. And it was just like her co-sign, just her being like, you should go for it, her signing my visa form. And it's just like, she didn't have to do that for me. And she's just one of the most, just to gush over her, she's one of the most giving women that like bring other women up with her, and she's always speaking out for women and helping women. And yeah, I want to do that for someone when I get to her level. So yeah.
Thank you guys. I want to move back over to Rachel before I get into some of the questions that people have been asking in the chat box that I've been ignoring. But so Rachel, you work with somebody that you went to school with from NYU, Emma Seligman. What are some of the trials and also perks of working with what seems like your best friend?
Yeah, I feel so lucky because I was like, so many of this kind of goes with the last question, collaborators, like my friend Io and we also met at school, Io Debris, and we made a series for Comedy Central together. My friend Moss, we hosted a show together. And then Emma, I met her when I auditioned for the short, and we became best friends. Like we didn't meet before I auditioned for the short film. And then we just sort of like clicked. She's a Taurus and I'm a Virgo, so it's natural. And then I just felt like she was really grounded, and I'm very like goal oriented, and it worked well together. And then we started writing this other feature, and it was just so natural and fun. And then we went to South by together for the short and stayed in like this one room in an Airbnb together. And just like, I think it's so great because we really know each other, and we know we have the same level of like ambition, and we have different goals. Like, she's a director, I'm an actor, we both write, but it's like we're both working towards the same thing. And I feel like because we're best friends, we can listen to each other's needs, and like know, like we know when like I'm giving a pep talk or when she's giving a pep talk. And like also when she was directing the feature, it's like we have a shared language where it's like I felt like I always knew what she wanted from me, where I was always like, she was like, I just felt like we had this like comfortableness with each other, that's really special. The one thing is that then sometimes when we're hanging out for fun, we talk about work because it's like it's all meshed together. But yeah, it's really special.
That's awesome. What's your big three? You said you were a Virgo?
I'm a Virgo, and I'm my full chart. I'm Scorpio rising.
Oh, okay, me too. Okay,
You're
great.
Scorpio rising. Okay,
Yeah.
I love
Wait, I'm Scorpio rising.
okay.
Revelations
What's
are
your
happening.
moon, ZIWE?
Wait, I'm Capricorn moon. What are you guys?
I'm Cancer moon.
I'm a Gemini moon, sorry.
Wow.
I'm like
What's your-
I'm the sign that everyone hates, like all big three. So I'm like outing myself right now.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I really distract. I'm supposed to be answering like these questions that people are asking in the chat, and I'm like, what's your big three? So anyways, people are asking really great questions, which I'm now going to get to. Chelsea, did you expect the communal Twitter response you got to the Jon Stewart packet?
No. No. I had opened up the packet and I had emailed it to like 100 comedians I know, and I said, pass it on, knowing that that's how comedians work. We pass from friend to friend to friend to friend. So, but I will say, I think something special happened in the pandemic, which is that people took Twitter, which was already a hellhole, and really lost their minds on it and sort of forgot that we are real humans in a real world. And it was cool, but it was also very, in the past, like, I don't know, maybe the other comedians can say something, but in the past, like, I never felt like, oh, I want to share what job I'm applying for or talk about the job or anything like that. So it's very funny to see everyone go through it at the same time. And ultimately it was great because someone ended up copy pasting the packet on Twitter, and then that made it over to Reddit, and we were able to get like way more applicants because of it. So it was cool, but it was also very funny.
I thought that was so smart, and what a way to give access to new writers. I thought that I was like, oh my God, I wish other shows would do this all of the time. And I've never seen anybody do that before. I just thought that was great.
I hope they do. I hope more people do it now, because it really was not that hard, and it worked really well, and it wasn't like this big crazy thing to do. Like, it's very accessible and doable.
And speaking of, you know, Jon Stewart, what's it like working with him, and what makes your working relationship so successful? Because I know that you guys did a project together before, but it never made its way to the air, unfortunately. And then he called you back for this.
Yes, I wrote for him. He gave me my first job in television, on a show that never aired. And I worked on that for a year, and then now I'm coming back. And I don't know what makes, I think going about in this business, like, it's always surprised me who sometimes you're just having incredible connections with people, or people you see, you're like, oh my God, we're gonna like be best friends. And they're like, I never want to see you again. Like, you just never know. And I feel like I feel very lucky to be working with him, and he's just so smart and so sincere. And I'm a very sincere lady. It doesn't look like it, but I am.
No, we can tell. You guys are all so sweet and very sincere, and you guys have all given me such great, honest answers to these questions. Okay, I'm gonna stop flirting with my panelists and go on to my next question. So London, you are working with David Spade and Fortune Feimster on the Netflix After Party, and you have been a comedic personality and host for quite some time now. What are some methods or tips that you can give to other, comedians who want to be a comedic host or a comedic personality? Like, I could listen to you talk about anything. How do you do that?
Thanks, babe. Do you know what? It's all about being authentic. That's the key thing. And I think the reason why I've done so well in that space doing hosting, I hosted a lot of TV in the UK before I came over and did After Party, is literally because, like, I call them renter presenters. It's like when you have a host and anyone could do that job and they don't make it their own, they're easily replaceable. It's like you can switch them out. But whereas if you make something your own and commit to it and do your research and bring your authenticity to whatever project your name is, you then become irreplaceable. And that's what I try and do with my hosting. Like, obviously, I wouldn't say I'm the best host in the world, but I would say, ain't nobody hosting the show like London Hughes is hosting the show. So at the end of the day, you can't really replace me with anyone else because there's nobody like me. And that's the best way to be, honestly. So that would be, my advice for anyone wanting to go down the hosting, comedy personality route. Authenticity. Do not try and be like anyone else but yourself. So yeah, that's key.
And Jaina, on Rutherford Falls, so you're both writing jokes for yourself and for other people. Can you talk about the process of writing jokes both for yourself and for other actors, and how that process has been for you?
Yeah, it's been very, very fun and fulfilling. I didn't know that I was going to be on the show until like halfway through the writing room. So I was a staff writer. It was my first staff writing job ever. And so I was writing for this character, Regan, who plays opposite Nathan Rutherford of Rutherford Falls. And I was fortunate enough to be in the room with 4 other native writers. And we just like had a great time developing these native characters for the show. And then I got cast in the show. And I think it's very interesting to see the other side of that and to see how much the actor sort of informs the writing. It's so much easier when you have actors to write for them, because you know what jokes work out for them. But yeah, it was super fun writing for Ed Helms. I mean, I have watched a lot of Ed Helms movies in my life, and I'm a big fan. So it was easy to write for him. But developing a character, you're really just pulling from your own experiences, your own personality and quirks, and pushing those buttons all the time. And then being on the other side of it is just a really exciting experience to like deliver the jokes and then bring your own special sauce to the jokes and improvise a little bit on the day.
Great. So we have time for probably one question, and I want to start with ZIWE on this question because I would like you guys all to answer, but I originally written this for ZIWE, and you'll see why. So I think that some people take, classes to learn comedy, and, some people just do it and they're funny. And I could be completely wrong, ZIWE, but I feel like you are really the latter, and just like your approach, like, I'm just going to do this thing. And I really don't, I really, I'm just going to go to the fullest. Like, I remember reading a story where you talked about being an intern at Comedy Central, and you were like, I was just going to chat with everyone and anyone. And like, that was how you got like your first joke on the show. So my question is, can you give us a peek into your creative process, and like, how do you ask the right questions to get, your comedic responses out of people? And like, I'm sorry, this question is kind of all over the place, but do you have to be taught to be funny? Is it something that you can learn, or is it just something you can do in the moment? Because you just do it in the moment so well.
Oh, thank you. That is a complicated question. Can you be taught to be funny? I think that some humor is innate, but you have to refine your skills, right? So it's like base level, this is my personality. I've always been this personality. There was a period in my life when I wanted to be an investment banker. Obviously, that is disparate from this personality. That wouldn't have worked out very well. But I had to refine my skill over time by creating a lot of very terrible things. Really, I would argue maybe 90% of the things I've created in my lifetime are not worth even mentioning again. But that 10% was fantastic. So really, when you're asking me about my comedic process, it's about outputting and refining constantly. But you're innately funny, and every single humor is different, right? Like the way that I deliver a joke is so different than John Mulaney, which is so different than Mindy Kaling, which is so different than Chelsea DeVantez, right? But you have to figure out, okay, there is a structure for how do you write jokes. There is a structure for how do you comedic timing in a film. So you have to learn just from like ingesting a lot of art, but you also have to make your own lane. Does that help? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I absolutely think so. I'd love for you guys also to talk about, you know, how did you guys learn to be funny? Since it is, I do genuinely think that everybody is funny, and like ZIWE said, you learn the structure and then you find your own voice.
See, I'm going to say something controversial. I don't think that everyone is funny. There's some people that are definitely not funny. That should never, ever tell a joke ever in their life. I genuinely believe that you can't be taught to be funny. I'm sorry. You either got it or you don't, you know? And like, just like some people are born pretty, some people are born skinny, some people are born funny. That's how it is. You can't have it all. And so like my metabolism isn't blessed. I'm never going to be a size 0. And that's fine, because I was born this way. I was born funny. I have a best friend who's born skinny. It's fine. And I genuinely think that what you can do is improve yourself. So you were born funny, the basis is there and you can improve it. But I just think without it, the structural building blocks of the origin story of your funny being born with the funny, you can't then go on and be funny. It can't be taught. Like you can say something funny, but that shit is like, you know, like a singer. It's like singing. Some people, I can hold the tune. Do you know what I mean? I can do it, but I'm not Ella Fitzgerald. Do you know what I mean? So there's some people out there that are okay funny, and you know, they may have a couple Netflix specials and they're just mediocre. But then you've got exceptional people that are the Ella Fitzgeralds of comedy that are really shining. And I think it comes with nature. You have to perform a bit. But I also believe that in terms of my thing, like I'm opposite of ZIWE. She said she had some terrible stuff. Like I don't believe that anything that you did was ever terrible. Like I think
honey, it was
I can't think like that. I can't. It was genius. Everything you did was genius. That's what I'm saying. I had like, you can't tell me I was ever shit. I was born hot. I'm genius. Always. ZIWE, you're genius. Always. All your shit's been funny from YouTube. Always. So for me, I just feel like if you have that way about you, you can improve. Like you can improve on the genius, but it was always genius because you're special. Because you're
wow, London, you're right. I redact my statement. Everything I've ever done is perfect.
Perfect, genius. You got something that was more genius than others, but the base level was genius. Was exceptional. No one can do what we do. People act like everyone can be funny. They can't. There's a lot of shit people out there that are not talented. There's loads, and to be a woman in comedy. Every single woman in this screen is fucking exceptional. And I think that what happens with society, especially women, we're made to play it down. Like, can we teach funny, or we should brush up on our skills? No, your gut, you know when you've got it, you know, it can't be taught. And I just think having the self-confidence to just try and experiment and know that you can't fail because you already won by trying is the best way to do comedy. And so that way you can only just get better, but you're always genius.
I love that. I have a fun lesson inspired by London's inspirational speech that rivals that of Denzel Washington in Remember the Titans.
Come on.
Which is, so I took a lot of improv classes. I took improv classes in Chicago. I took them in New York City. And some of my teachers tried to snuff out what made me special because it didn't conform to their idea of what comedy was supposed to be. I had a teacher once tell me, quote, "You ask too many questions." Cut to, now I make my living asking questions. So that is to say that you don't every critique is not worth internalizing. And there are some people who don't know what they're talking. In fact, most people don't know what they're talking about. So don't change yourself to adhere to what the guidelines of comedy are. Really, it starts from within.
You guys, I couldn't think of a better note to end this on. Before we all sign off, I am so thankful to every single woman on this panel for the way that you've pushed our industry forward. And I'm thankful to USC. I'm thankful to the Women of Cinematic Arts for allowing me to talk to some of my personal comedy heroes. Seriously, you guys, the work that you guys are doing, it means the world to me. I'm so thankful and blessed to be here with you guys, and thank you guys, and fight on. Thank you guys for making us laugh. Keep doing it. Never stop. Okay. Bye. Fight on.
Thank you for having us, and to thank you everyone watching too. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
queens.
Bye.
Take care.